Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. This is live stream 741. If it's your first time joining me, let me point out, super casual, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news and taking a peek at a tabletop game. So tonight, the old school for the New Year's celebration continues to rock on, as I will be taking a look and paging through Iron Falcon. This is an OD&D inspired role-playing game from Chris Gonnerman of Basic Fantasy fame. So we're going to take a peek at this, as well as the Adventure Compendium that is available as well. This is volume 1. So that is coming up probably in about 30 minutes or so. So if you are swinging in here, you've never popped in to watch the Dispatch before, let me point out that we start off talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Then we move into the look at a game. So if you're watching live, kick back. It's going to probably be about 25, 30 minutes before we get into Iron Falcon. If you're watching anytime more than 30 minutes after this stream ends, there will be timestamps. So if you don't want to check out the news, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't, you can skip ahead. All right, then. So if you like this video, by all means, don't forget, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as tonight's review of Dungeons & Dragons Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 1 Into the Borderlands from Goodman Games. This will be up. It'll be live soon after the stream ends. It is in the can. It's good to go. I just didn't want to put it live right before starting the stream, because then people will be sitting here going, so, do I watch the show? Do I watch the new video? Do I not watch anything because I'm confused? I can't make up my mind? I don't know. You know, so there's that. All right. Do want to also point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And lastly, this is a live stream, so that also means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours before you can comment in chat. Yet another way to keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in and I will do my best to respond. It's me, Hunter, was first out the gate in chat tonight. The Motor City Madman, one of our chat moderators, is with us as well. Clint Gibson is hanging out. Helga Ratbone, Mr. Eddie T, which probably means that Sarah D is hanging as well. Omanal is with us. Omanal happens to be one of our role-playing game reviewers over at thegaminggang.com. So when I talk about visiting thegaminggang.com, and I mentioned, hey, there's content there that you're never going to catch on the shows or in videos, that's a prime example. Omanal's reviews, Kevin Smith's reviews, Sammy's reviews. You miss out on them if you're not checking out thegaminggang.com. I find it kind of funny that there are people who watch the videos, don't really have any idea that the website exists, even though I mention it all the time. And then there's people who come to the website and read articles all the time, and they really don't know that the YouTube channel exists. I don't know. Who else do we got? Oh, there we go. There's Sarah D saying hello. Flaming Huron is with us also. He is our other chat moderator, so they drop the ban hammers when they are needed, which thankfully we get a pretty good crowd in chat, which of course now I'm jinxing it by saying that. So we don't see the ban hammer too often. I think we've seen it once. All of one time. The Madman says lots of good content over on the website too. Good. It is amazing. Nah, it's good. I'll take good. Like, it's better than just saying lots of content. Period. You know, I don't know if it's any good or not. There's a lot of it. A lot doesn't necessarily mean that you want it, but thankfully we do a pretty decent job over there as well. All right, got a lot of news tonight. Some pretty cool stuff. I should point out, I'm starting to kind of iron out my interview with Norman Gavin from Necrotic Gnome. So if you are a fan of Old School Essential, stay tuned because we're going to talk next week. In fact, Old School Essentials is going to be, featured next week on the Dispatch as part of the Old School for the New Year celebration. Let's jump on into the news because arriving this month from Sinister Fish Games is Streets. Here's what I know. The city was once a small and sleepy town, but the affordable properties have attracted artists, startup companies, and families. Celebrities and influencers are moving in. God, I hate that name. I hate that word, influencers. Get out of here. More like slackers. And after some recent archaeological findings, the tourist industry is booming. Street by street, step by step, slowly I turned. No, street by street, the city is transforming into a center of culture and commerce. Players are investors creating attractive new streets in the growing city, investing in new businesses and homes. Some streets will become hotspots for hipsters. Oh, God. Others will be dominated by tourists or families with children. Hipsters with children. Even better. Others still will become designated shopping areas. Where will your microbrewery profit the most? Selling only IPAs, no doubt. What is the best location for a toy store? I would think in that area that has families with children. What kind of environments are the other investors creating? And can you exploit their work for your own gain? As each street is completed, the people on it will move to new buildings that interest them. Hopefully one of your buildings in an up-and-coming street. Can you compete with the hype of your rivals and grow your following over time? To earn the most money and win the game, you need to manage your limited investment funds cleverly, planning ahead while keeping your mind open to fresh opportunities. Streets is a tile-laying game where players build a city together. Each building has a simple valuation formula, which earns money for the owner when the street is scored. Valuations are affected by the other buildings in the street, So smart placement is essential to maximize profit. On top of this, the city is populated by hipsters, families, shoppers, and tourists, each with their own preferred building type. Cleverly located properties can benefit from the growing crowds of people who further increase the value of the buildings they visit. Optional expansion modules add powerful asymmetric player abilities and extra layers of strategy and tough decisions. Streets is for 1 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, plays around 30 to 60 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $35 when it arrives, I believe, later this month. I say I believe because when distributors say a game is coming out is, of course, right now with all these shipping issues and COVID issues, it's not necessarily written in stone. But supposedly this is hitting stores like this week and next. So we will find out. I got to point out, I really enjoyed Villagers, which is from the same company, same designer as well. So this could be pretty cool. I like the art style as well. Mr. Eddie T says, I thought you were an influencer, Jeff. No, I don't believe I am. I guess people could consider me one, but no. I love how, you see, I've heard stories from people who own like food trucks, how they'll get these people who come up and they'll say, oh, they're an influencer. And, if they get their food for free, they'll take a photo of them standing there by the food truck or whatever. I'd be like, get the out of here. In fact, I think if I remember right, there was one story I read about somebody who had a food truck, but it was like an gourmet ice cream truck. And they said, they had a sign that said, all influencers pay double. I like that. I thought that was pretty good. So Flaming Heron said, you only get half the content either way. You need the website as well as the YouTube channel. That's how it's been. The website's been around much longer. I guess maybe not much longer, but has been around longer than the YouTube channel by almost 3 years, if I remember correctly. Omanal said, do hipsters have kids? I don't know. I thought that too, but I'm sure some hipsters have children because then you've got those hipster kids. And where the hell do they come from? They got to have hipster parents, right? Right. Omanal says, all that's missing in this game is the homeless. Jeez. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, homeless. The homeless meeple moves around and lowers the value of the streets and the buildings on it. Not that I'm not picking on the homeless. It's terrible, people, the homeless, this problem in America. But I'm just throwing that little wisecrack out there. Moving right along. Receiving another print run from Tabula Games is the Volfirian card game. I'm taking a stab at that pronunciation. But regardless how it's pronounced, here's the details. Volfirian is a competitive and fast-paced deck-building card game for 1 or 2 players set in the wonderful world of Mythia. If you enjoy a quick and intense match with a lot of strategic options, you're going to love this. You'll have to destroy your opponent's cities while defending yours. Employ your army, use your special power, or if you are brave enough, try to tame the dragon Volfirian and have it unleash destruction on the battlefield. But beware, your opponent will try to do the same. Volfirian is a game set in the wonderful world of Mythia, 60 years before the events of the main game. I'm not sure what the main game happens to be. It's a competitive and fast-paced deck-building card game for 2 players. In the game, you'll employ everything you have, trying to destroy all of your opponent's cities. Your army and Chrome manipulation must be the resource, will be your most reliable asset, but you'll also be able to try to tame and control Volfirion the Dragon, a dreadful beast that can bring destruction on the battlefield on your behalf. But beware, as mentioned previously, your opponent is going to try to do the same thing. Volfirion is for, once again, 1 or 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 15 to 30 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $29 when it returns this spring. I like the art style. Art style looks kind of interesting. Could be a fun 2-player game. I like the artwork for that dragon, Volfirion. Mm-hmm. But I got to be honest, I believe there's like a whole line of games from Tabula Games in this setting. I got to be honest, I'm not familiar with any of them. So I stumbled across this and I thought, oh, you know what? That could be kind of interesting. It's kind of cool looking. Let's move on to some role-playing game news. Because Free League Publishing, yes, my pals over at Free League Publishing, have revealed the first expansion for the Twilight 2000 role-playing game. I've got the skinny on Urban Operations. Free League today announced Urban Operations, the first expansion for the recently released new edition of the role-playing game classic Twilight 2000. Twilight 2000 Urban Operations is a modular expansion focused on, wait for it, cities. Oh, you knew that was coming. There's a theme, right? So we're talking about streets of cities. Now we're talking about fighting in the streets of the cities. The expansion is loosely based on the classic module Free City of Krakow for the first edition of Twilight 2000, but designed to be used in any city environment. Krakow is described in it as one example, another being Karlsborg in Sweden, because this new edition has two settings in one. Well, in one box. The expansion will include guidelines for playing in cities, new factions, new scenario sites, and introduce several plots to create longer story arcs. It'll be a box set with a scenario book, city maps, scenario site maps, modular battle maps for urban environments, and new encounter cards for urban environments. A pre-order is going to be launching in Q1, and pre-orders are going to give instant access to the full PDF of the expansion. The actual physical release is slated for a Q3 2022 release. Yeah, it's good to see Free League Publishing is right away pointing out that, hey, we've got more coming for Twilight 2000, because that was one of the questions I kind of had, and I mentioned it in my review of the new box set, which I thought was very cool. Very kind of different approach than what we're used to seeing from most Free League Publishing role-playing games, which was not a bad thing at all. But I was kind of curious what kind of support we would see from it. Would we get like just 1 or 2 expansions and that's it, or what? So one thing that this does have going for it is, I know Thomas Haberstam, if I remember correctly, I think that's his last name, Tomas, I should say. He's the driving force behind Free League Publishing. He is also a huge fan of Twilight 2000. I did an interview with him through Skype a while back. This was, I think, God, I want to say leading up to the Kickstarter they did for Twilight 2000. And we discussed it at some length. And he is a big fan because he goes back. He played the original edition, or I think it was maybe the second edition, because he is a little bit younger than I am. So on to the next news piece, because currently up for crowdfunding for Bloat Games is the Survive This Dark Places and Demigorgons class compendium. And here's the skinny on the project. So before I jump into this, I always thought the name of the game is just Dark Places and Demigorgons. But I guess now, did I misspell Free League? I don't know. Maybe I did. Let's go back for a second. It's possible. It's possible I was banging this out. Yes, I did. I forgot an E. Duh. Yeah, what can I tell you? You know, you pays your money, you takes your chances. That's how it works around here. Anyway, I was going to say, I always thought the game was just titled Dark Places and Demigorgons. But it's Survive This. And I think Survive This is the, like, kind of their core mechanic. I think that's what it basically is. Because I think Bloat Games has a few releases, a few titles in the Survive This lineup. Anyway, on to the skinny about the project. Survive This, Dark Places and Demigorgons class compendium compiles all of the previously released classes from the Dark Places and Demigorgons core book and the many source books, 56 in all. Additionally, there are 10 brand new classes exclusive to the compendium. Each class is expanded to level 10. With each new level, characters will gain new bonuses, abilities, skills, and more depth. The classes also have streamlined, I guess this should say the classes have also been streamlined for easier creation. But that's not what the sentence said. A ton of player options have been added to the class compendium as well, including 30 new 1980s themed spells. There are also potions, curses, and the ominous rules for crossing over. An expanded and updated skill section and gear list is also included. Dark Places and Demigorgons class compendium is stuffed with over 200 pages of content for your DP&D games. This supplement is a must-have for fans of the system. So the classes included are, get ready, here we go. Alien Hunter, Alien in Disguise, Archery Enthusiast, which is new. Badger Scout, also new. Breakdancer, Bully, Conspiracy Theorist. Surprised we don't have Anti-Vaxxer in there. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the 80s. Drifter, Equestrian Rider, Equestrian Show Rider. Getting, detailed there. Extreme Athlete, Final Girl, Geek, Goth, Hood, Horror Connoisseur, which is new. Hotshot, which is new. Jock, Karate Kid, Kid Scientist, Metalhead, Monster Hunter, Most Excellent Dude or Dudette, Nerd, Nullifier, Parapsychologist, Party Animal, Performer, Preppy, Princess, Punk Rocker, Revenant, Rocker, ROTC Cadet, Snoop, new. The Source, new. Soviet Spy, man, it's just like all over the place, right? We got breakdancers and Soviet spies. It's funny. Spy in Training, I guess maybe for the U.S. or Soviets, right? Could be either one. A Street Tough, Survivalist, Sweet Baby, which is new, which I'm curious what that's all about. It's a kept woman or something? What? A Sweet Baby. Talking Animal. Talking Animal. All right. So our group consists of the breakdancer, the Sweet Baby, Soviet Spy, and this talking Chihuahua. Let's go! Take on these monsters. Teen Chauffeur, Teen Heartthrob, Teen Ninja, Teenage Runaway, Teen Samurai. Surprised we don't have Teen Spirit. Thespian, which is new. UFO Investigator, Undead Hunter. I always mispronounce this word. Wuxia, martial artist. Or Zuxia. I forget. Yeah, it's, that Asian thing. Magic classes. Black Witch. Mechano Mage. Mystical Ghost Hunter. Natural Witch. These are all magic users. No doubt. Teen Wizard, Voodoo Practitioner, White Witch. Then we got the Scion classes. Animal Wrangler, which is new. Clairvoyant, Experiment X. Any relation to Weapon X? The Forgotten, which is new. Phantasmagon, Pyro, Telekinetic, and Telepath. Flaming Heron says furries need representation. I don't know. We didn't really have furries in the 80s, did we? Was that floating around? I don't recall that. Then again, I wasn't necessarily into everybody else's kinks anyway. It's just me. The Kickstarter project for Survive This, Dark Places and Demigorgon Class Compendium is nearing its funding goal. You can reserve a copy of the digital release for a $6 pledge or grab the physical book and PDF together for a $19 pledge through February 1st. And this is really close to funding. And it's got a very small goal. Expected delivery for both the PDF and the physical book happens to be this August. So, kind of fun. I'm trying to remember. I'm sure somebody in chat remembers it. Sarah D says, Teen Samurai and Talking Animals. How long until you're running a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game? There you go. Omanel says, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles combines with Ghostbusters and G.I. Joe. And you know what? We can actually do both Ghostbusters. We can do the Ghostbusters cartoon, and then we can do the real Ghostbusters. We could team them both together. Because, although, did the gorilla talk? I don't think the gorilla talked, did it? I don't think it did. I don't seem to recall. I didn't really watch. I mean, once again, at that point, I was a little old for cartoons. Still watched, some anime here and there, like Robotech. But yeah, I could see that being pretty funny, pretty interesting. But as I was going to say, and maybe somebody out in chat knows, isn't there's a fantasy role-playing game that Bloat Games does, isn't there? And the weird thing is, originally, I thought Dark Places and Demigorgons was the fantasy, like high fantasy role-playing game, and it's not. But I knew that. I knew that going back a while. But I seem to recall that they have like an OSR fantasy game as well. I'm curious, kind of curious. And I understand this is a relatively popular kind of Stranger Things sort of role-playing game. On to the final news piece. Now available for Traveler is the Core Adventure number 2, Last Call at Iniri's Cantina. And here's the dope from Mongoose Publishing. Iniri's Cantina at Affinity Highport is the quintessential starport bar where adventures begin. Patrons are met, rumors are heard, and weary travelers wind down after weeks in jump space. It is a place to get a good, stiff drink and have the chance to rub elbows with the movers and shakers of the Cillian Main. The winds of change are blowing in the region, and the high-tech industrial world of Assay, I could have said ass, but I think it's Assay, is making moves to establish itself as a power broker. Unfortunately for Affinity and worlds like it, they might become casualties of Assay's master plan. But such is life in the politically charged, high-stakes core, where everything is done on a grand winner-take-all scale. The travelers become embroiled in these events, even though all they really want to do is save their favorite bar. We gotta save cheers, everybody! Go get your blasters! They become pawns in a dangerous political game that might forever change not just Affinity, but an entire way of life, and not for the better. If they play their cards right, they might just find the key to saving Iniri's Cantina and preserving the things they hold dear, which obviously are bars. Last call at a nearest cantina includes deck plans, rules, and illustrations of Affinity Highport. A new spacecraft, the Ramakai Hildrew. Is there a reason why they had to like? Yes, it's a new spacecraft, the Califraxus Expialidocious. And a new vehicle, the Sea Skimmer. Oh, okay, that's easy to say. It includes a world map and animal encounters for the wild water world of Affinity. This 48-page adventure PDF is available at Drive-Thru RPG for $11.99. Not a bad price for a 48-page adventure. I tend to be a little more forgiving for adventure PDFs and prices than I am for like core books and that. I don't know why. I would think I'd kind of still think the same. But I'm glad to see we have more and more Traveler content out there from Mongoose. And now we've got a whole new, they don't really do like adventure paths, but they do like settings. So they do series of adventures in a particular setting. Although they did do that Pirates of, Drenex campaign. But now this is like the core worlds. So that's what the core adventures are. So we've got this new series. We had the Traveler 2300 AD, the new version of that come out recently. In fact, we should get a review of that in the near future. In fact, review of a few of those releases in that lineup as well. So once again, cool to see Mongoose releasing more Traveler adventures. Gotta dig it. Gotta dig it. Speaking of Traveler, I think, I might be wrong, but I think Seth Sikorsky, I think it's Sikorsky, right? I forget. I haven't watched any of his videos in a little while. I kind of think he's sort of on board now with Mongoose Publishing because they released a free adventure for the holidays, and it was based on a classic adventure, and I could have swore it had been like rewritten by Seth Sikorsky. I was like, huh. I like him. He seems like a good dude. Seems like somebody you'd have a good time sitting playing at their table, which to me, I think that's like the most important thing about role-playing games, right? It's like, did we have fun? Yeah, the adventure didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, but we had a good time. It's all that matters. As opposed to, yes, everything just logically made sense, but damn it, it was boring. Omenal says, yeah, he does pretty good Traveler reviews. He doesn't only do Traveler, but I know he kind of focuses on Traveler. He does Call of Cthulhu reviews too. And I get a kick out. He does the little shtick where he's like in, costume, playing like the everyman character. So I get a kick out of that. Alrighty. So that is the news for tonight. Pretty good mix there as well. Viper Dave is with us in chat. Did I miss anybody else? Doug Roberts has arrived as well. Let's see who else. Anybody I missed? No, I think I've said hello to everyone. Omenal says that he's pretty sure that Seth tweaks every module he plays. I think everybody, well, okay, I take that back. That's not true. I think solid game masters, I'm not going to use the word good or great, but solid game masters do tend to tweak stuff. Nobody worth their salt, I guess I'll say. I'm sure I'm going to piss somebody off by saying this. Nobody worth their salt as a game master runs something exactly as written. Had just never seen it. And there are adventures out there that are fantastic adventures. Just any good game master is going to tweak stuff to fit not only their style, but their players as well. So I'm not saying you can't just run something as written, that's fine. But like I said, most good game masters are always like, oh yeah, I like this, but I could, if I changed it up and did this. Always happens. Okay. So tonight we are continuing the old school for the New Year's celebration. We're going to take a look at a role-playing game that is based on original Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, the boxed set. When I say box set, I'm talking about the 3 booklets, not basic, not expert, not the other basic. So it's kind of interesting because I have heard from some people who swear by playing old Dungeons and Dragons, original Dungeons and Dragons. Some people like to refer OD&D as old D&D. It's actually original. And I'm kind of interested to take a peek at Iron Falcon. It is from Chris Gonnerman, who is also the creative mastermind behind Basic Fantasy, which I have reviewed. This 139-page core book that we're going to take a look at here is available in print through Amazon for $8.75. You can get it free in PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG. Of course, keep in mind, the Gaming Gang, and of course, that would mean the Dispatch, happens to be affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG, please swing by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep the Gaming Gang around. You can pick up the Adventure Compendium, which we're going to take a look at after this. You can get that over at Amazon for $7.50, or you can get the PDF absolutely free over at the Iron Falcon role-playing game website. So Almanal says the 1974 version, yes, that is OD&D. So let's swing on over to the other camera. Actually, first, let me grab a quick sip here. James Eck has joined us in chat, says they believe Iron Falcon is 1975 because it includes the booklet for Greyhawk. Yeah, I think James is correct. I think it's actually the first 4 booklets is what Iron Falcon tackles. So rules for classic fantasy role-playing. Take a look at the back. This is not a new game. Warning. Doesn't say warning, I'm just saying. The Iron Falcon rules for classic fantasy role-playing reproduce with the highest possible degree of faithfulness the mechanics of the role-playing campaigns from the very early days of the hobby. The material presented herein is as close to those early campaigns created by the founders of the hobby as possible, with all the magic and glory intact. This is a new game. Iron Falcon presents those classic game mechanics in a clear and concise fashion in the form of this single book. These rules are just the sort of loose framework they were always meant to be, but now logically organized and easily used as a reference. This is Iron Falcon. All right, let's jump on in. I like this nice kind of minimal line art. That's pretty cool there. Few things I do want to point out as we're taking a look here. We are not going to look at each and every page, even though this is available for free in PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG. But I do want to make sure that we get an opportunity to take a look at the Adventure Compendium as well. So we'll look at quite a lot of this, but we're not going to take a peek at each and every page. Also, keep in mind, this is not a review. I have not cracked this open. I am looking at the interior of this book for the very first time. So if you have never seen Iron Falcon before, welcome, because I haven't either. I did purchase this from Amazon because I wanted to share some for the old school for the New Year celebration. I wanted to share something that actually tackled OD&D. There's a lot of BX retro clones out there, a lot of there's a little bit of OD&D with swords and wizardry, but I've already tackled that, so we're not covering that during the celebration. So anyway, I did pick these up from Amazon. Dedicated to Gary, without whom none of this would exist. How very true. All right, so we get a little introduction. This looks very similar in presentation to Basic Fantasy. I don't think we're going to be overwhelmed by a bunch of artwork, nor is it going to be like, oh my gosh, mind-blowing artwork either, I would think. But we can see right now, this is nice and clean, nice and clearly presented. So taking a look at abilities, so we've got our abilities, looks like we've got our standards here, right? So you got strength, intelligence, wisdom, constitution, dexterity, charisma. So these attributes are presented in the original order that they were. Some people think it's always been strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. No, it wasn't. It was actually presented in this order originally. So we're getting our modifiers. So intelligence gives you a percentage chance to know something. Talking about, I'm taking a guess, minimum is the number of spells that the player character can have for the level. So their intelligence is, let's say, 14. They have a minimum of 5 spells of that level that they know, a maximum of 8. And the maximum spell level they can learn is 7th. 245 Trioxin has joined us in chat. Good to see you. Welcome aboard. Got here just in time. We're just starting to take a look at the Iron Falcon core rules. So we got our character classes. So our character classes would be fighters, magic users, clerics. I got to be honest, it's been such a long time since I took a look at the OD&D stuff. I had the white box. I think I even had Greyhawk. I didn't have the other booklets. And the weird thing is I actually bought those. I picked that up after I had picked up AD&D. Strangely enough. I was like, okay. But yeah, I actually bought the white box at a hobby shop. Probably like 1981. Because I remember I picked up Chainmail and the white box, and I was in high school at that point. So that would have been like the winter of 81, spring of 82, sometime around there. So I was going to say, somebody out there, I guarantee, is going to be able to verify yes or no. But I thought, wasn't it the Greyhawk book that thieves were introduced? That originally it was fighter, magic user, cleric, and then the thief was introduced in Greyhawk. Because I see we've got here, we do have the thief as the one of the core classes here. And then we've got trading ability score points. A lot of folks forget that. They forget that was around. It's like a lot of people think Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, that you were the standard way that you were supposed to create your characters in AD&D was you rolled your 3d6 in order, and whatever those were your attribute scores. That wasn't the case. The main way was to roll 4d6, drop the lowest. So compared to original Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons characters were more powerful. just based on attributes alone. So we've got our clerics, and there we go. There are our thieves. There we got our character races: dwarves, halflings, elves, half-elves, characters with multiple classes as well. I always had forgotten that class and race were separate in OD&D, and it wasn't until Basic that they decided, well, we'll make races class. So we got money and equipment. So breakdown of price. Damage versus large creatures. Damage versus man-sized creatures. Combat. There's the old attack matrix. Omanel says the DMG had so many methods to roll characters. They did. And then there's even an appendix at the end, depending on what edition, what print run you had of the Dungeon Master's Guide. And it kind of also gave you like a breakdown of creating parties and some tips in that to kind of speed up the process as well. So we've got damage, charging, healing, morale, using oil as a weapon. Oil was a big deal for the old school role-playing games. Lighting stuff on fire, lighting monsters on fire was a tactic that was used a lot. Don't really see that anymore. Well, I guess probably because you've got magic users who have all these cantrips that they can use whenever they want, doing like 1d6 or 1d8 damage. Whereas back in the old days, it was like, oh, okay, I've got my magic missile. I've cast my magic missile. I'll just be hiding in the back now. So we got our saving throws by class, item saving throws. Here are our spells. So we got our magic users. Now that's the clerical spells. We get a breakdown of each of the spells, and they are in alphabetical order. So each of these show the level. And once again, I mention this a lot when I'm looking at, OSR kind of games. I love the fact that you can look at a page that's got spells on it, and there are all these different spells, and it's a paragraph or two. Sometimes it's just a couple of sentences telling you what the spell does, as opposed to having, an entire page or more devoted to a single spell. Because as a dungeon master, as a game master, you got enough stuff that's got to be rumbling and tumbling through your head running a game. You don't have to sit there worrying about, oh my gosh. So wait a second. So in order to cast that spell, is there a vocal element? Does the magic user have to use some physical components? I forget. Hang on. Let me stop the game so I can look it up. No. I say it all the time. Worst thing you can do as a game master is stop the game to look up a rule. You are there to provide it. You're the referee. You're the judge. You're supposed to be impartial. If you don't know the rule to something, make a judgment call, and then tell your players at the end of the adventure, or I should say session, that, you know what, everybody, I'm not too up on the grappling rules. So I kind of was winging it there. But I promise I'll take a look and see what those rules really are. And if there isn't a rule, of course, who gives a shit if there's a rule or not? It's your game, right? Talk about this all the time. Don't let rules ruin the fun of your role-playing games. But if there isn't a rule, then make a note of what your judgment was originally and be consistent. All right, so we've got our bestiary here with a lot of different creatures and monsters. Really no artwork, though, which the reality is, I mean, you could easily go on Google, put in any one of these entries, and get plenty of images. We got our standards here. Toad, giant, and frog, giant. The treant. Let's see. Does the treant do the same thing here as it does in AD&D? Let's take a look. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they do. They animate other trees. So, I mean, they're intelligent. They look like trees, but they can also animate other trees and speak to other trees. The will-o-wisp. I always knew it as the will-o'-the-wisp, not will-o-wisp. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. All right, so we've got some random encounters. Got some random encounter tables for the wilderness. NPC encounters. Something else that a lot of people don't utilize as much as they should in old school role-playing games is morale. I can't tell you how many game masters out there run role-playing games where it's like every creature, every opponent, doesn't even matter. It doesn't even have to be fantasy. You could be playing gangbusters, but every opponent fights to the death. And you know what? That is just not how things go. And to be honest, if you're running a role-playing game where all your enemies are fighting to the death, that makes for a very boring adventure as well. When the enemies are trying to escape, when they're trying to run away, or they, throw down their weapons and surrender, and they're hey, don't kill us. Don't kill us. That leads to some fun role playing. 234 Trioxin says a lot of dragons on those random encounter tables. I have to say that in my experience running fantasy role-playing games, and once again, I always mention Call of Cthulhu is my go-to game. I have run Call of Cthulhu for decades. I've run it since it came out in 1981. So that means I have not run a ton of fantasy role-playing games. I have run fantasy role-playing games, but I'm not so keen on the player characters running across dragons all the time. Dragons should be majestic and holy jamoli. Oh my gosh, it's a dragon, not, oh, look, it's another dragon. Oh, yeah, okay, so we're low level, so it's a young dragon. Too many dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. So we've got our magic items here. Speaking of dragons, dragon control. A potion of dragon control. Wands, staves, and rods. This looks like this would be a nice, easy introduction to use to get some non-role players into playing a retro clone of D&D. It really does. So we've got some game master facing info here. Secret doors, listening at doors. Omanal says, only issue they had with morale is it slowed down the game, but modern RPGs seem to ignore morale. See, now I disagree. I don't think morale slows down the game. If you're just rolling your traditional 2d6, because you're actually cutting down on the amount of combat that's going on, at least in my opinion. That's all. So 245 Trioxin asks, do I have a favorite edition of Call of Cthulhu? I do. And as much as I like 7th edition, it is not necessarily my favorite because I'm not super keen on the chase rules. And I'm not really into the whole, okay, so you've got a skill of, let's say, 30. Okay, well, divide it in half. Oh, okay, then divide it by, 25%. And I prefer just, okay, if something's more difficult, well, then you're going to get a penalty. So you'll have a negative modifier to your skill roll. If something's easier, you'd get a, a bonus. Or, I mean, you could honestly easily just do advantage and disadvantage if you wanted. Yeah, I'm not super keen on the, okay, well, divide it in half. Okay, now this is, divide it by 10. Yeah. To me, it's just adding too much math. And it's on the player character sheets, it's pretty tough to make out all of these numbers that are like written on down in there. Obenal says, to be fair and basic and expert, a 35 hit point dragon could wipe out pretty much the group. Oh, wipe out a party. There we go. Yeah. Well, the old school games, you're not superheroes at first level. Yeah, you're just barely tougher than, the average Jane and Joe on the street. Right, so we get the alternate combat rules. So I wonder if we're looking at ascending armor class. No, maybe not. Interesting. Oh, there you go. We got paladins. Intelligent swords. Yes. Yes. Carry your own Stormbringer. So much fun. So many complications to your life. Okay, referee's guide. Different ways to play the game. Okay. Books of spells. All right. Campaign checklist. And we got a character sheet here. And the open game license. Nice. That is Iron Falcon, which is from Chris Gonnerman of Basic Fantasy fame. Once again, you can pick this up for $8.75 on Amazon. You can snag it for free in PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG. Of course, once the article for this video goes up over on thegaminggang.com, there will be links to all of this. So this is the Adventures Volume 1. This is actually pretty short. I picked this up, once again, got this on Amazon. I thought it was actually a little bit longer. So I'm a little disappointed that this is $7.50. And I don't know, it looks like it's about 60 pages. So this is the first adventure compilation for the Iron Falcon rules for classic fantasy role-playing. This multi-module consists of 4 different adventures featuring a variety of monsters, both classic and new, presented in traditional dungeon environments. These adventures are written in true old-school style and are suitable for player characters of lower to middle levels. They're intended to be suitable for players and referees who are new to the old-school style of play. The adventure begins here. The adventures in this book were designed to be played with the Iron Falcon rules for classic fantasy role-playing, but in fact, they're broadly compatible with Zero-E era retro clone games and are readily adaptable to many other old-school Renaissance rules systems. Madman says they had a dungeon master that used the 3d6 roll for ability scores. They had some really low ability scores. Talking several 5 to 10s. Yeah. But the old school approach, yes, of course, your attributes are important, but not as important. Your brain power was what was important. That's what's always important in old school approaches to adventures. So, yes, I get it. Lousy attributes made it tougher. But still, luckily, when you came up with a plan, you weren't having to sit there and go, well, let me roll on my intelligence to see if I could actually figure that out. So this is the first multi-adventure module designed for Iron Falcon. So we get the Dungeon of Kairos by Alan Jett. and Chris Gonnerman. The Abandoned Tower by Chris Gonnerman. The Dragon of Doncaster by Chris Gonnerman and Steve Longman McKenzie. Don't know if I want to know why he's called Longman. The Temple of Fear and Madness, also by Chris Gonnerman. One aspect of the adventures that are available for basic fantasy, and as I can see here, Iron Falcon, that I really like is that for the monsters and NPCs and things like that, you get little hit point boxes so you could track hit points on them. 245 Triaxon says terrible characters is their favorite thing about Dungeon Crawl Classics, especially when you're going through a funnel with them all. So this is a key, basically telling it. So is this the first adventure? Yeah. Okay. There we go. It is the first adventure right there. So dungeon key. So we have a little box text, which is our read aloud, no doubt. And as you can see, not a ton, which is how it should be. Even Wizards of the Coast themselves have said read aloud should not be more than 3 sentences long because people start checking out. Of course, leave it to Wizards of the Coast to not follow their own advice. It's the Not So Empty Room, the Dread Altar, the Sarcophagus. So here is the Dungeon of Kairos map. Pretty no frills. So we got the Abandoned Tower. The Abandoned Tower first appeared in the RPG Primer and Old School Playbook. The original version was written for use with another rule system, but this version has been revised for compatibility with Iron Falcon. The adventure is not only suitable for beginning player characters, but for beginning players, as it presents many traditional dungeon elements in a compact adventuring area. I like introductory adventures that include a lot of the tenets of the old school. Definitely dig that a lot. And there are some good ones out there. So this is very, very short, very small. It's like, all right, walk in, walk out. Then we got the Dragon of Doncaster. What's going on here? The dragon Sigorith, or right there, Sigorith. Yes, I did pronounce it correctly. Lives in a cave on the bluff side. His statistics are given in area 24 below. He does as dragons normally do, hunting for food or raiding for treasure in the surrounding area. Uh-huh. So I guess you're looking to steal the dragon's treasure? Is my guess. The Strange Room. It's the Strange Room. Empty picture frames in a variety of sizes hang on all walls of this room, tilted randomly. There's a sweet fragrance in the air, like flowers or good red wine. The floor of the room has been painted in alternating red and black squares. Everything in the room is dusty. There's no indication that anyone has been inside for a long time. So it looks like we've got a few levels to this. This looks like this is a bit longer as far as the adventures go. Mayman says the Dungeon Master had a yearly tax on our gold and magic items. Roll a 10 or less, or you lose the magic item. Dice don't like the bad man. So we know how that went. That's pretty funny. Flaming Heron says, dice hate me too, especially my own if I share them with their dungeon master. I never allow people to use my dice. In fact, if anyone out there is familiar, I'm sure somebody is obviously enough. Knights of the Dinner Table. way back, early issues of Knights of the Dinner Table when I can't remember the characters' names, but one of the characters is kind of wimpy. Ended up getting some huge brawl at a convention because somebody touched their dice. Somebody had touched their D20 and he went off and went like insane on the guy who's like this huge, like kind of goon. It was kind of funny. The Temple of Fear and Madness. All right. The Catacomb Key. As you can see, this is pretty minimal as far as these adventures go. Really not a ton of artwork. Mainly just getting the maps is what we're looking at here. And we get our open game license. So 50 pages is what this clocks in at. Keeping in mind, once again, you can pick this up over at Amazon.com for $7.50. Or you can grab the PDF. I believe it doesn't have the cover. I don't know what the deal is. For some strange reason, that's kind of the thing with basic fantasy stuff, too, is the PDFs don't usually have like a cover to them. But you can get it absolutely free over at the Iron Falcon RPG site, which is ironfalconrpg.com. So there you have it. Cool. I'll have a review of Iron Falcon in the near future, probably a bit longer on the adventure supplement. Okay, swinging on over to the other camera here. Omanal says, favorite dice are those that roll 1s and 20s regularly. Same dice. Critical successes and critical failures are hilarious. They do add spice to gaming life. That is for certain. So here's something interesting, just a little tidbit as far as my approach to running role-playing games. Any game that has like a critical failure, roll a 1, it's a critical failure. I don't always necessarily make it an automatic failure. Sometimes I make it a success, but a very costly success. So just to, change things up a little bit. It's like a critical hit. I don't necessarily always make a critical hit about damage. Sometimes I'll come up with something on the fly, which is far more beneficial to the player characters than just doing like double damage. So, Flaming Heron says, ha, I know they fail me. The dice are cursed. Who just said they tell people not to touch their dice? Oh, there you. It's the madman. Says, his groups tell new players not to touch his dice. They're cursed. Hey, speaking of dice, and we'll take a closer look at these once I get a promo code for everybody out there. But Paladin Role Playing sent me some sets of dice. And I'm trying to remember which. I think it's one of the original Adventures reincarnated videos that I shot, one of the standalones. So it's like volume 4, 5, or 6. I kind of showed the dice a little bit. But I got a couple of sets that they sent along that they wanted me to share. And they're going to provide a promo code. So I'm trying to find out, what kind of discount we're looking at. Right? It's like 5% or something. If you're like, for my audience, that'd be 20%. 20%. They're cool looking dice, though. Okay. That is it for tonight's show. Hopefully had some fun hanging out. Just the usual stream of consciousness kind of thing. So if you like this video, hopefully you did, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't yet. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. will not only let you know when the dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also inform you when I upload other videos as well, such as tonight's review of Volume 1 of the D&D Original Adventures Reincarnated into the Borderlands from Goodman Games. Kind of dive into this as well. Also, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Joseph DeBar popped into chat. Sorry if I missed you, Joseph. I didn't get to say hello to you. I will say hello to you as we're wrapping up. So tomorrow, the old school for the New Year's celebration continues, and we're kind of doing an indie cornucopia tomorrow. So we're going to take a look at Mothership. Yes, this is the first edition of Mothership. I do know they had a recent Kickstarter that was very successful. But we are going to take a peek at the first edition of it. We're also going to take a look at the original edition campaign, which would kind of build on what we were looking at tonight with Iron Falcon, because this is kind of aimed towards like OD&D retro clones as well. And then, remember, it's old school for the new year. It's not old school Renaissance. So it's not necessarily every game has to be an OSR sort of title. So we're going to look at Cairn, which is very short. And this is an old school influenced role-playing game, very minimal. I think this is also influenced by the Black Hack as well. So we're going to look at all three of these on tomorrow's show. And don't forget, next week, we are going to devote the week to old school essentials. So next Monday, we're going to take a look at the Classic Rules Tome. I am trying to see if we can get the Advanced Fantasy Tomes, the two of them, in time to include them next week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off or not. But of course, I'm also going to have an interview with Gavin Norman as well, the mastermind behind a Necrotic Gnome. So, all right. If you were watching live, thank you very much. I always appreciate people hanging out. If you took part in chat, there's like a +1 bonus. Thank you. Because at least you're keeping me company, so I don't feel like a complete doofus. Just speaking into the ether, into the interwebs. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch this live. Hey, however you go about watching any of the videos on this channel, even if it's on Memorex, I really, really do appreciate that. I know a lot of people have a lot of entertainment out there that they could check out. And this isn't always the most exciting content around. So thank you very much for taking time out and watching. Of course, I will be back tomorrow to wrap up my week here on YouTube. And of course, I always hope each and every one of you gets an opportunity to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. See you tomorrow. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.